So, what do you think, Martin? Can we do some of these things locally?
Ideally, yes, but it may be that we need to wait a bit more and slash or experiment a bit more. Um, what would be the key for this?
Yeah, it's difficult. So I know that you and I we've been experimenting with these things, and
Yeah.
it is possible to run some things locally.
Mhm.
And the difference between what you can run locally will depend very much on the power of the machine that you're using.
Yeah.
So, ideally, to start with something that can work, but that will not be as good as when you're connecting online, you're going to have to look at a gaming computer or a Mac that has an M series chip. So ideally, you'd want an M4, an M5, and that's what you need. Um,
And
and
that's where this gets really nerdy. If you thought that the
yeah,
level of nerd so far was okay,
yeah.
well,
No,
we,
no, we'll,
you
we'll
know,
we'll keep that very light because
okay.
that's not a technical.
All right.
We don't want that to be too technical, because
Okay. That's great.
otherwise we're going to lose everybody. But if you want to know
Yeah.
more about that, tell us in the comments. We could make a
We can
video
get
with,
more specific.
yeah, with more details.
Yeah. So, general ideas. Then we need a sort of gaming computer. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, the reason why we mentioned this before we introduce the topic, is that the computer will leverage better the power of its GPU or graphic processing unit, also known as graphics card. So yeah, and what is it, Philippe, that we are talking about here?
yeah. Installing an AI on your computer.
Uh-huh.
And the problem is the size, you know. Uh, the most competent the AI is, the bigger it gets, because it learned from a lot of examples and it needs to have the memory of that. And when you ask it to work, it needs to remember its past experience and remember what you told it and have everything interact together. And that means a lot of space and that means a lot of computing power. And
Hmm.
that's why there's that need. Because if you want to run a full size AI model, let's say you say, I'd like to run the same thing as ChatGPT at home and have it, disconnected from the internet at large. Well, you're looking at several thousand euros computer,
Yeah, the size
you
of the
know.
room, more or less.
Well, now it's gotten better,
Or not.
so,
Yeah, yeah,
but you're probably looking at a computer that is worth the same thing as a house,
yeah.
in terms of money. So then the question is, can it be reduced? So yes, it can be reduced. Can it be simplified? Yes, it can be simplified. Can it be specialized? Yes, it can be specialized. But as we trim down, things become less capable. But that doesn't mean that they can't work. There are ways around, and the ways around basically usually involve having a small AI that's made to work with a special uh, bank of data that you want to use. So if you
Yeah.
have translated in the past, for example, and you have all your past translations in translation memory or in bilingual format stored somewhere, then if you manage to put that inside the special box where the AI can look, well, then you can locally make that to work. You can have your small AI talk to your past translation data, and it will be specialized in translating with that. And now that becomes powerful and specialized, and it can work in a small computer. How would you
That's
explain
great.
it?
So I would do a recap of all that you just mentioned because
Let's
it's
go. Let's do
that's
that.
the fundamentals. Yeah, that's the fundamentals of working with AI locally in your computer. And by locally, we mean not even being connected to the internet. So we are discussing the difference between large language models, which is web-based or cloud-based models in the style of ChatGPT, Gemini, Cloud, and so on, which are, you go to a website and do stuff, or you connect to a website and you do stuff in your application. But we move on to the small language models, which is they are like the small cousins of large language models that we can download to our computers. There's a huge difference in size because, as far as I know, for example, ChatGPT is trained on billion of the so-called parameters of data, while a small language model, billion between billions and trillions of
Yeah,
parameters, while the small language models can be trained on between millions and billions of parameters, and in this case, adding three or more zeros makes a huge difference. So the total of that is that you can download, let's say, a 15 gigabyte file to your computer, just to provide an example of a small model that was prepared to translate and not do anything else like the generalistic, large language models.
yeah,
And what you were mentioned, Philippe, as it can speak to your material, let's say your corpus, translation, memory, glossary, and so on. This the same idea that I have of training the model, or is this another type of interaction? But basically, in a nutshell, it would be to have a small AI in your computer to do specific stuff in maybe your specific field of specialization.
yeah.
So is it the same training and this interaction that you mentioned?
It's not.
Ah, okay.
It's
So I
not.
want to know.
Yeah. To Okay. So I'm not an AI engineer. Okay. So
Me neither.
uh, I'll explain. This generally. To train a model, you need a lot of power. So even if your model is going to be small, uh, and so to get the models that we can download and install on your computer, we are relying on the work of people that have spent a lot of time trying to make a small model be as competent as possible. That's hard, and we are really grateful that people are doing that and making that available for free, and that's really great.
Yeah, that's
Now,
another point.
yeah, what can be done locally is to have smart ways to interact with it and make it interact with your data. And in some instances, you can do some last minute improvements on the model, what is called fine tuning and stuff like that. But mainly, the idea is that you're not retraining it to the core.
Oh no. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the model comes as is, and you're relying on some technology that's been made to interact with it, and you have more and more and more tools. Um, you know, Before having that conversation that we're having today, I went online and said, okay, let's have a look at what's available since I last checked, and there's a lot of things. You even have some systems where you install that on your computer, and it's going to be able to search in your files. So, you don't remember where you have a special document that was saying such and such, and maybe you can use that to find in the document a specific sentence or a specific point of data that you're looking for and that you want to extract. Yeah, many tools, and some of them can be used for translation, uh, but it becomes more nerdy. We have to be honest.
Of course.
It Yeah, it is more nerdy. You have to be ready to get your hands dirty. It doesn't necessarily mean that you will have to make lines of code. It's not that. It's more the configuration in your computer,
Yeah.
uh, the instructions, launching the processes. It is a bit intricate.
A lot of trial and error, a lot of it.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to be ready to spend hours because the
Yeah.
most likely result is that you'll get a bug in the beginning, and then you have to
Yeah.
understand, well, what did I do
Oh, and
wrong, or what is missing on my computer to run that, and that sort of
yeah,
things.
and
So
no guarantees that it's going to work properly. But when it does, it's great.
it's nice. Yeah, yeah. No, I've had nice experiences,
Yeah.
using that, being able to connect that to even some cat tools, and get some nice results. It came up with some nice translations where it used the vocabulary and the style from the translation memory, which is excellent, because it's getting closer to what you want. So it is possible, but it is hard. And now running things
For
locally
now.
is going to be a race. Yeah, for now, but it's still going to be a race, because that's the race for getting the hardware, the
Yeah.
computer parts that make this possible. And at the moment, some computer parts are having, prices that are enormous, because less of them are available, because big AI companies have bought everything. And so what's left for the consumer is just very little. And it's becoming difficult, if you want to do things locally. Finding the right tools at the right price becomes difficult. And on top of that, you have to add the ability to interact with the tools that are going to make that
Yeah.
happen, which is challenging in itself. But have
Yeah.
you had good results yourself? Because I know you tinkered
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah, I have a small note of encouragement, which is I have a very basic gaming computer from 2022. I mean, I got it in 2023, but then I checked and it's a 2022 model and it still hasn't, collapsed. So,
Good.
it's and it has a regular graphics card. I mean, basic for gaming, but for what we do, it's quite usable. So I mean, it's so that people are not like, so that other colleagues don't feel like this is only for an elite group or something like
Yeah.
that. Or maybe some of them will have really nice gaming computers. So if they do, they are all set. And yes, I have been playing with small models. I noticed that, like I mentioned before, it's a lot of trial and error because you know, even the ones that you read online that are really good and so on do weird stuff, of course.
Yeah.
Hallucination is more on the surface on small language models too.
True.
Also, something very interesting is that sometimes you find a model somewhere that's probably a community model. Actually, all the small language model is a huge community of developers that, like you mentioned before, Philippe, they give away the model for free. So, but in some cases, you find some community models that are really good, or that they, perform really interestingly. Of course, that will depend hugely on the the language combination that you work with and the amount of of material that's available for that language combination. But in general, it's been good. I have had weird experiences with fine tuning.
Okay.
I tested a couple of models were um, that were okay for general translation, but when I wanted to include, for example, my glossary, some segments in context, and so on, it started like inventing words or doing weird sentences and
Oh
so on,
wow.
or even omitting stuff and so on. But maybe it's just a matter of trying again, because all this is evolving, daily. So the next time you try, of course, you may have to re-download a model and see how it works. But I think that it's a very. I've been mentioning this for a while now because actually, after seeing you, Philippe, present at the ATA conference last year, because I thought you were working with a small language model, I was like, I need to do some research on that, and then I just found out that it was not the case. But anyways, small language
Yeah.
models are a promising, player, especially when it comes to, protecting confidentiality
Yeah.
or like sensitive processes, or even, if you want to try and see if a smaller model performs better when it comes to doing specialized
Mm-hmm.
translation.
True.
And since we mentioned technology a lot, but we weren't too specific, Philippe, do you what kind of ingredients do you say we would need, or I mean, in terms of technology, or are there CAD tools? I mean, translation software that nowadays offers compatibility with small language models?
It is a bit complicated using small language models. So you're going to have to use a desktop CAD tool. So you're going to have to run something local. Okay, so online CAD tools, so you won't be using them. Or if you want to be using them, you need to be able to make the thing that you're preparing available online. So basically, making this work as a server, which is a bit more complicated too. It can be done, but if you want to do it local, so you want to use a CAD tool, then you need to find a way to connect your CAD tool to it.
Okay.
Some CAD tools have some plugins that you can use for that. Um, I think on Trados you have used the plugin to. So what's? Can you remember me the name of the plugin you've been using?
There is, well, for the small language models, the Hugging Face plugin,
Yeah,
which is still in beta, I think, but I've used that.
yeah,
Um, yes.
yeah. So that's what you would be using basically. If not, if your CAD tool doesn't have that, does your CAD tool have a way to connect to custom machine translation or a custom translation memory? So if it can connect with something outside, then you can cheat. You can find a way to use that possible outside connection to make it connect to your system that you've built, your AI system. So, for example, for WordFast Pro, I was able to use the custom system to connect to a custom machine translation, and I connected that locally to my local AI system. So I cheated and made it find locally on my computer that. Okay.
Broke the
So can
rules.
be done, but that's still a bit challenging. But it can be done. The simplest way is if you have a plugin, like you did with Hugging Face. So you use things that are made for that out of the box. If that's available, if not, it becomes challenging because you have to create your own ways of connecting. But once you
Yeah.
have that, that's okay. Now, the thing to look at, uh, you would think maybe that you need to buy a super high performance gaming card. Not necessarily. The important aspect of the gaming card is the memory that comes with the gaming card. The processing power is nice to have. If you have a more recent, more capable translation memory that will run faster, that's great. But it's not bad to have to wait for an extra 1 second and get a better result. And to get the better result, you need the big model. So, and to fit a big model, you need to have a lot of memory on the gaming card. It doesn't matter if you're using a PC, not a Mac. If you're using a PC, it doesn't matter if you have like a massive
Like me.
amount of RAM. Yeah, on your computer. What's important is for running AI is if your gaming card has a lot of memory that comes with it. They call that
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
VRAM, so the video RAM. So okay, so if that's a lot, if there's a lot available there, then you can put bigger models. On a Mac, it's different because the new Macs, the ones that have the M chip family, everything is glued together. So uh, what would be the CPU, the gaming card, all that comes in uh, one package, and the memory is connected to it directly as well. So that's where the Mac is interesting in that case, because you're going to be able to use the system memory to fit your model. So if you have a Mac with 12 gigs of RAM, a PC that would be in the same price range with a graphics card, if the graphics card on the PC is only 6 gigabytes of storage capacity, well, storage, no, memory capacity on the graphics card, well, the Mac will be better because it's going to be able to leverage some of that system RAM, more of it actually. So that's where it's at. So the more you can fit, the better it is because the model that you download, once you have unzipped it, once you have it, the size it is the full size that needs to go in the graphics card. The whole thing. It
Oh, I
needs
didn't
to
know
be
that.
it needs to be entirely sent into uh, and that's why so it is huge, and that's why we need powerful computers because the whole
Yeah.
thing needs to be present in the graphics card,
Oh,
and the
I didn't
graphics
know that.
card will
I
be
thought it was just a call, you know?
no. It takes the whole model and puts it in the graphics card. Now, if you are an AI engineer and I'm saying stupid things, correct me in the
Yes.
in the comments. But I'm pretty sure I have that down. So the full size of the model needs to go in the VRAM, and that's why it's hard, and that's why it's hard to train. That's why when they build these things, they need to do that in data centers because all the
Yeah.
data that they have collected, all the data has to be available at all times while the model is being trained. It needs to be able to see all that and be trained with that. And that's the amount of,
That's
power that is
tremendous.
needed for that is huge. And so that
Yeah.
uses a lot of electricity, and you need to
That's
cool
a lot
those
of heat too.
computers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, one important thing on one important note on small language models is that since they live inside your computer, so long as you can maintain them, they don't resort to the internet. You know, every time you do a prompt, and that mainly reduces anything carbon footprint. So that would be and water and resources and so on, electricity, blah blah blah, and everything. So
Yeah.
that would be another important point that I don't hear a lot when I see presentations by different colleagues or even in different sectors.
Yeah.
Um,
Completely. Yeah.
yeah, but okay, that's good to know. I didn't know about the whole model having to fit in
Yeah, that's why
the
it's difficult.
the VRAM.
It's
Yeah.
if you have a gaming card, for example, the best would be if you have a gaming card that has 20 gigabits of RAM available. That would
Hmm.
be amazing because you can start to put there pretty big models, and you
Yeah.
can do. very good things with this. You can get into more difficult tasks with these, and you can do that locally. But if you want to get 20 gigs card, you're probably in the 3,000, $4,000 spending. Well, maybe less. It depends, but
That's quite a bit.
with the current prices, yeah, that's
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
but for still for a small business, that's not completely out of the question. So
Yeah.
uh, if you have a business and you say, I'm going to use AI locally, and I'm going to pre-translate the files locally, and I need a capable machine with a capable model, well, then that becomes reasonable, because if that's what you're going to do, that is a reasonable investment for a company, not a big company. I'm saying, small, uh, relatively small company. Well, if you have a lot of translation work to process and you want to be able to say, I'm using AI locally, nothing leaves this computer when, we are pre-translating, that's
Yeah.
interesting. That's an advantage. And you're using the work of the translators that you had before with you, with the translation memories and all that. So you're using the human power that you have connected to that. It can be interesting. And in that sort of situations, that's the spending that makes more sense.
Yeah, yeah, and not obligatorily, and it's not compulsory to have an only local based environment, which means we can operate with both. In some cases, it's strictly necessary to have everything inside a network or a local connection, but we can also work locally and web based. And well, in that situation, we would have
Yep.
different landscape.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of information.
Whoa, that's a lot
Yeah.
of information.
Yeah. But this is nice. I hope you guys that are watching are enjoying the conversation. I i think that making these things as simple as possible, and having natural chats about them is useful. And we're not saying, like we mentioned before, that everybody should use AI. We're not saying that AI should be used in every situation. We have to be looking at these things more objectively. But objectively, we know that AI is here to stay. So the more we understand it and the more we learn how to interact with it, if we have to, I think it puts us in a better position, because it's easier to be able to handle what's coming if you know how. So I hope you're enjoying that conversation. And there's more to this topic. And for the next time, we are thinking into to cover some different topics. So let me see what we had in mind. Yeah. One of the questions that came up was, do we still need cat tools with that context? So that's something that we could discuss next time, and also talk a little bit about the AI footprint. So we've touched on that just now, with the amount of electricity and cooling that is required, and the role of maybe having things done locally in that. So that's interesting, and there's more topics we are thinking about. And so if you like that format, if you enjoyed that conversation, let us know, share it so that we can do more like these. And if you really enjoy it, well, maybe what we could do once, uh, to test if you like it, would be to have the podcast published, and we would be live in the chat with you, discussing these things also. So if that's something that you'd like to do, well, let us know in the comments, and we'll make it happen. Martin, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was great. Yeah, we can talk about these things a lot because there's a lot, so many circumstances, so many stories, and yeah, so there's a lot. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed that, and I look forward to having you again next time.
Philippe, thank you so much for the invitation and for this great conversation that started a long time before we started recording, and of course, is going to
True.
continue a long time after we press the stop button. It's great to share the space with colleagues. Of course, they can let us know in comments or via any of our channels if they want to see other topics or if they want to discuss something else we haven't covered. And it's great to stay in touch. So thank you, Philippe, and thank you all for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I will have Martin social networks mentioned in the description, and I'll maybe try to imprint them
Yay.
on screen as well. So if you want to follow Martin, you'll know where to click. And we look forward to next time. All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.